Okay, my friends, this is going to be real fun. We're going to start talking about asteroids, comets. What do we know for sure? They just came back with a sample of Bennu, an actual sample back to Earth from that asteroid. And they landed on this one here, which is Comet 67P, which I also believe is biology. We're going to go over this stuff until it's started to be talked about. It's kind of crazy just to walk around in circles like this. So, and I had a whole bunch of people over here for Christmas at my house, and it was, you know, their conversations were just not allowed. You know, so I pretty much stayed silent for the day. What are you going to do? People are having a very hard time, and the more educated you are, these people are what you would consider to be educated. One of them was a teacher. Smart people in mainstream, they would be considered totally smart, and you know, above average. Let's put it that way. And I find that those are the hardest minds to open up. They've been so menticide, so in belief of what they've been told that they can't explore in their own mind. If you can't explore in your own mind, then your mind is dead. I could say anything to you, and you just okay, Roger. Well, I don't want you to do that to me either. I want you to look at the stuff that I present, which is, it's crazy. Even like this hip joint in space. Why can't they see that? What's the matter with these people? That's my feeling now. It's just, I'm stunned at humanity. Let me show you why. All right, I was going to wait till the end to do this, which I did, but I want to show you before that. Ovid was one of the greatest writers in history. And he said there was a variety of types of transformations take place, from human to inanimate objects, into constellations, into animals, into plants, into animals, ants, funguses, mushrooms, into humans. They could do anything they wanted. That's how I can claim these giant creatures were here. Now, once they died, apparently their form stayed. And some of them were supposedly gods. What happened to them, I don't know. But I'm going to show you what the evidence is to support the things I'm saying. Okay, you know, I just can't imagine a mind that doesn't question. That doesn't say, oh, come on, Roger, how could this possibly be? I said, well, in the ancient text they wrote about it, first of all. Secondly, we can see it. It's there. There's no question it's there. And this goes back 10 years. And this one here is the artery, or at least where it fed the muscle, I believe. And all of these are from the little tendons. They have a little moisture in between them. And this was just ripped out of some bodies. And then you say, oh, come on, how did it get ripped out of that? Because I want you to question me. I want questions. How did it get ripped out of there? Well, in the ancient texts, it said that Venus was a fiery comet, and it almost hit Earth, and I believe that wiped out the Grand Canyon. But I think that was the impact site. And then it came back around and smashed into Mars and just totally destroyed Mars. Mars has no magnetic field and has no atmosphere. And here's the impact sites. Here's Mars. This is wider than the United States and deeper than the Grand Canyon. And boom, just ripped and ripped the atmosphere and the magnetic field. Now, here's Venus, which was supposed to be the impact E, or impact or, whatever, one or the other. These are welding arcs. Those are welding scars from an electrical arc. Now, I believe there's two of them here, one here and one here. Could be wrong, but I know, I'm almost certain that according to Velikovsky and according to the ancient texts, they all say the same thing. that Earth was violently destroyed with a huge flood and everything because of the impact of this. And even the Smithsonian says that the Earth oceans boiled for over a year from this impact. That's from the Smithsonian. That's not my words. Now, that's how all these body parts got thrown into space. And you say, how could these things be this big? That I can't account for it. The Earth is nothing more than made of basically a corpse. A corpse is, and whatever got flown into space, they're huge. They're absolutely gigantic. Bennu is actually small. Here's Bennu. It's a heart. These are the valves in the heart. You see these valves? The heart sits right up here. The top goes away. Now there's another one out there, Psyche, that's the same. They're going to that one too. Psyche is this one here. They're on the way there right now. And what happens is the top rips off and you end up with this, the valves. It's identical. There's no difference whatsoever. Not only that, they can see tubes coming out. These tubes coming out, that's not supposed to be there if it's an impact site. And these are the different colors of blood. When you have oxidation states of blood, that means I'm breathing, I'm taking oxygen in, I'm blowing out the carbon dioxide, basically. And then you got stuff in the middle. And here it is right here. These are the three. The red is the red blood, yellow is in between, the black is vein blood, basically. And that's what we're seeing in space. This is not hard to see. It's not hard to understand. It's hard to speak about. Yes, I agree with that. All right, there's a lot of stuff they found on Mars that indicates life, but this is muscle sarcomeres. They're eroded, they're just dried out, and the dust has come out of them, which is the gummy, gooey part that pulls it in. It's called the sarcoplasmic reticulum, and that is drained out of it. That's an artery, and that's a vein. The artery supplies blood to the sarcomeres. Anybody that's an anatomist should easily understand this. All right, this is Bennu. These are the heart valves. When they went up, they went in and they found a spot that didn't have a lot of chunks and stuff, and it blew off a bunch of dust and went way deep, 25 feet or so, into this outside surface, and it hit actually muscle, because this is a heart. And I will show you. It's because now what's your next question? You say, oh, come on, Roger, that can't be a heart. What did they find? I said, well, let's see what the chemistry is. Because here is the chemistry right here. This is what they found when they analyzed the chemistry. Bioessential sugars, ribose, glucose, samples from asteroid Bennu. RNA, all the molecules on Bennu. Genetic codes, protein synthesis on Bennu. All of these things that are in us are on Bennu. These are RNA, DNA. That just didn't fall, just dust up and glob together for some reason and turn into bioessential everything. And the structure is identical, and the anatomy of the parts that they brought back is identical. I will show you that. So we have identical chemistry, and then you say, well, that could be anything. That could be just thinking they're bringing that to Earth as starting life. Well, no. I'll show you what's additional to this is the anatomy. All right, so now you say, all right, well, show me, Roger. Well, I'll show you. They had to go down and go through a membrane before they could get to the muscle. That's heart muscle right there. That's cardiac muscle, and I'll show you anatomically. And it has sarcomeres in it, and it also has sarcoplasmic reticulum, which is a gummy substance. So they go through the membranes to get into the muscle. They come back with this. There it is right there. That's exactly what they found, and that was exactly what the chemistry was, the same as in us. So is that a heart muscle? Is this sarcomeres, heart sarcomeres? Well, let's see. All right, these are different types of muscle, but they all have sarcomeres. And here's cardiac muscle. All right, the contractions happen because of the sarcoplasmic reticulum. And these are the little sarcomeres I'm talking about. So if we were looking down at a cut across here, and looking down, we would see a whole bunch of little tubes going this way and that way, no big structure to them. They sort of run like this. And guess what? That's what I just showed you from Bennu, right there. That's it. This can't be missed, and these are the sarcomeres. And all the biochemistry there's nothing that isn't here. Okay, so we keep asking questions. They just found space gum. This is from just a couple of weeks ago, and discovered in asteroid Bennu samples. Well, the space gum is what's coating these fibers, which are the muscle fibers in the cardiac muscle. All right, the cardiac muscle bundles that I just showed you. And this is the space gum, is this sarcoplasmic reticulum. Now, they could easily do tests on all, autopsies and so forth. And let me show you what the actual muscle sarcomeres look like. This is actually from a heart attack victim here on Earth. And that's what the sarcomeres look like. And there is no difference. There is no difference. They're in blocks. And then they found a space gum which coats the bundles. These are inside the bundles, and these are the bundles. And the reticulum is on the outside. Well, you hope you don't go too quick, but you get what you get, my friends. Okay, my friends, everything shut down 10 years ago. This is 2015, the same time as those pictures of Comet 67P. They knew back then, this is Smithsonian, they say the asteroid impacts once made the Earth's oceans boil for a whole year. And they talk about impact. Well, it was Venus basically bouncing off of us. And they created 3 layers. The whole world, 100% of the Earth, is covered with this red bed, then a gray or greenish clay coating that, and then a black cap across the top. That's worldwide, fully understood. It's called the Triassic. And I believe when this impact occurred, it created that Triassic, and they say the whole world was covered with water. It was a watery ocean world, and mud fossils were formed in that layer. And in my layer, they were formed in mud. I call them mud fossils, and they are absolutely flawless, and they are extremely well preserved, as Yale claims, exceptional preservation of soft-body creatures, due to silica-rich oceans. All the exact same thing I claim. And this was 2015 when I presented my evidence. It was well accepted for about a week. And then I was basically shut down. So everything goes back to 2015. It's 10 years. It's time to open our eyes up and see what's in front of us. These are people, Smithsonian, but once they say it, have you heard about this? Nobody heard. Just recently, they've started to talk about it again, the ocean's boiling, because I've been so verbal and so vocal, and we're getting it out there, the word, but it's not getting out the way it should. It should be broadcast to people through the media, the news outlets, and so forth. Somehow we need to get it in that realm where you can talk about it without being shut down. Not being able to talk about something is a very, very bad situation. And that's what's happened with mud fossils and these stories of our ancient past. All of that stuff. Look, Venus was supposed to be born from the feared god Jupiter. And that's exactly where it would have come out of that red spot. And I'm going to tell you what, that red spot is not just a red spot. That, my friends, is a female body part that gives birth. And I know this for a fact because I can see a detail in here that nobody else will understand, basically, is this latch. And a real, not disturb. This one here is being twisted. It's not a storm. It's not a storm. The atmosphere is going around the edge of this, twisting it this way, because this is a mound. It's called a Venus Mons, and this is getting twisted. Normally, that latch would have just gone straight down with that strap, and that's what holds the vagina in the body, and that is a vagina. All right, Jupiter is not just gases. It's so gravitational that the gases turn into a soup. When they hit that mound, they just swirl like this, so they think it's a storm. It's not a storm. It's a mound. As this hits and goes around it, it just turns into a vortex. Then it reconstitutes itself. By the time it comes back around again, it's just this, and then it does that. And that is exactly what would happen if Venus was born from the feared god Jupiter. And if you think that's not possible, you should talk to Ovid. Okay, this is about Ovid, and he wrote 15 books, and I mean serious stuff. The creation, the ages of mankind, the flood, Deucalion, who was in everybody else's world, Noah, Apollo, Daphne, Phaeton, all the way down through all the gods and goddesses, and all the way down to book 15. And here's the first 2 lines. Book 1, lines 1 and 2. He says, metamorphosis or transformation is a unifying theme amongst the episodes of metamorphosis. Metamorphosis means you can change from one thing to something else. It's like a butterfly from a chrysalis. Now, Ovid raises the significance explicitly in the opening lines of the poem, the first 2 lines. In nova fert animus mutatus decere formos corpora. I intend to speak of forms changed into new entities. Just change them. Accompanying this theme is often violence inflicted upon a victim whose transformation becomes part of the natural landscape. All right, they inflicted violence on these and turned them into part of the landscape, mountains and hills and whatever they wanted. Now, down here it says, what kind of changes were there? A great variety amongst the types of transformations, from human to inanimate objects, just like the Nile River or like a statue or something, into constellations, into animals, into plants, from animals into ants and funguses. You could change into the mushrooms or change into being human. You could change from one sex to another, and from one color to another. They could do anything they wanted with matter because they were the gods. Gods don't die. They're still here somewhere, as far as I'm concerned. I don't know. All right, because I get asked all the time, how could these animals be so large and living on this earth? What's up with that? And I really can't explain that. I don't have a good explanation. I know they're here. That's the giant fish. And he was Ares, which supposedly was the god of war, is my understanding. And he was trying to escape from Typhon, who here is spitting his venom on Ares to kill him. And he was sent by Gaia to kill the gods. And here he is laying in the desert. This is Typhon. And his throat is cut exactly as it says. He cut his throat with his great and mighty sword. These things were what was written. Now I'm going to show you some highlighted pictures, but you can see if you look here. You got Google Earth. Just come up here and look. This is his head. That's his red flared eye that they talk about. These are his beards that come down. They create this cocktail of nastiness that actually exploded. And I mean, it's almost like a painting right here of what happened. It's crazy. I didn't say it isn't. But if you can turn your head away from what you see, then that I can't understand. I can't understand. I can understand asking more and more questions. All right, come on, Roger, show me some text about this. Well, yes, it was written about. Exactly. It was exactly written about. An Apollodorus 1.6.3. It'll talk about Typhon attacking the gods, and they turn themselves into animals. And he got this one. And then it goes on. There's some things in there I don't necessarily agree with what they claim from what I have found here. But this is Typhon. These are his legs. And his thighs, they say, were of human style, which they were. And then he's wrapped around with coils, huge viper coils. And he runs all the way across North Africa. And right out here, I can show you, his tail is still out here. So here's his head, runs into a huge body. I don't know how much his wings or whatever he's got going on here. But I can see even where he poops right here. And all the way out to his tail where I can see he was lashed. Because there's blood coming out of it. You see down here? That's a cut as well, which, probably was not fatal. And it looked like that maybe cut over in another couple of areas here. He would be pushing his tail at him. And Zeus somehow cut him back here. That's what it looks like to me. When you see these run off, these blood colors like this, you know that you got some kind of cut. Now these are dragon scales. Right? They're just not just hills and valleys. So, and this is way at his tail end. Look at these. Now, if we go way up the other end of them, it's got the same stuff. Only they're flexible. All right, all of this stuff is related to his body. Whatever it is, I don't know. But we get way up here. And here's his throat. Now, he got cut on his throat as well, right there. And that's exactly what it says in the ancient texts. And when you see red and black like this right next to each other, that means that's from artery and a vein at the same time exploding out. They don't mix. The red and the black do not mix, and there's the cut. Now all of this was his throat. That's all throat. And all the way down to here, this stuff is runoff. All right, so from down here, forget about it. Doesn't mean anything. All that is what runs off of these scales. And when I say scales, there they are. They're the same scales here. Only they got hinges in them. You see, they got hinges in them so he can do this kind of stuff. And there's the inside of his throat. And this yellow stuff is what causes the venom. That comes all the way up out of here. Right up in this area, all the way down here, that yellow stuff. is being produced. You see that? Isn't that amazing? All the way back to here. In this area, it starts to produce that yellow stuff. And it goes all the way up until it spits out of his throat right here, out of these beards. You see the yellow stuff is still coming up, coming up, coming up, coming up. Boom, it comes down. And then somehow, there's got to be some chemistry going on here. It separates this white looking stuff this way. And it does whatever it does up here, I don't know. But it ends up creating this, I think, this green. And the green comes down this beard and mixes in with whatever it mixes in with, and then it creates a very, very serious attack on the fish, which is right here. And the fish was so attacked that it ate through its scales, and you can see down into the vascular system. The big tubes are arteries. The smaller ones are just little blood vessels, and then they also break all the way down into the capillaries. You see, here's a main blood supply artery, and they break off, and then they break off and get smaller and smaller, and they actually, right at the very tips, before they enter into the veins, you have the capillaries. And then you can also see all these tiny little tiny lines. That's the lymphatic system. That's not people just driving here out in the desert. That's the lymph. This one here might be somebody driving, but it's not all of them. And what happens is, I believe these are the valves. There's going to be vein valves in here. They can only go one direction, one or the other. And I see spots like this. I'm pretty sure these are the valves. And this was a pretty serious attack. That melted the scales all the way down into the flesh, because this is the only part that's got flesh. See? And here's where the flesh starts, to where it attaches to the fin. And then you're down into flesh. Apollodorus 1.6.3, my friends. And then, of course, we know about Quetzalcoatl. So, if you haven't seen this stuff before, this is earth-shaking. However, there were gods, not just one, there were multiple ones on the earth. And this is Quetzalcoatl's head, all the way up the East Coast, and his feathers are up here. Now, I've shown this literally hundreds of times. I'm not kidding you. I know. I don't know if there's a statute of limitations on this, but there might be. I could be in serious trouble for overshowing. Here's his shoulder. You gotta let your mind open up and look and say, "Wow, look, what would cause that?" And all of his organs are underneath here. There's gigantic caves and all that stuff. Obviously, because that's going to be it. Now, he has beards too. You see the beard coming out here? And the beard coming down there? The Mississippi River is his throat. This is his crest. And green feathers. Feathers make things grow very, very green. So the whole thing up here is growing quite well and quite green. And he was exactly depicted, exactly identical to what I just showed you in the ancient glyphs. And whether he was a friend of mankind, I don't know. And the size of them, like I said, I can't tell you how in the world they could be this big. I mean, it's crazy. I have no idea. But there he is, right up the whole East Coast. And they used to call it America, the land of the feathered serpent. I don't think that's too far from wrong. Okay, my friends, I'm going to leave it at this. It's been quite a journey so far, and there's still a long way to go. And it involves light. It involves, the atmosphere that's in space. It involves our history. Some people would say religion, whatever you want to talk about. It's up to you. And then you can draw your own conclusions. But the problem I have is that people have been menticited into believing one way or the other. And boy, there's no in between that I can find. And if you believe on this side, you believe on that side. If you believe on this side, you believe on that side. And it filters through everything in our society. Politics and everything. Anyway, I love you all. I'm just trying to look for reality and truth and see if we can understand the universe we live in. I think everybody wants that, but I'm not sure now. All right, I love you all. Thank you. Bye.